my dear friend, now I will tell you about my book that is Venomous Fangs of Cobra, Dangerous Poisons to the Society. This is my written by Vijay Kumar, myself. So I will tell you the preface of this book. This book reflects that some cults are great danger to humanity. A specific cult followers, that is Islam followers, destroy the temples of Hindus, fire temples of Zoroastrians and rapes of Jewish women since origin of this cult, and a black thunderstorm rose from Arabian Peninsula and whole world was divided into parts, Kafirs and the Muslims. Therefore, this took a curtain raiser how Jews, Hindus, Zoroastrians, Parsis, and Yazidi women were raped, and killing of Jews, Hindus, Zoroastrians, and robbery ransom from 610 AD till date as Malik Ganimat certified by Islam. So please, this book published on the Rudra publication, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, and you can also purchase on the Amazon, Flipkart, and and so on. Flipkart, Amazon, Repro. So I will tell you some of the part of this book. This is Venomous Fangs of Cobra. You see, Venomous Fangs of Cobra, written by Vijay Kumar Ba. This is my photograph, and you can purchase online also. Very, very decent book, which is the curtain raiser of the treacherousness of Islam, which is propagated by Prophet Muhammad Sahib itself. So let us. I will read some. I will read some part of this book, which I have written in my own language. So let us see. Now we will try. We will show you the extreme cruelty against the Zoroastrians by the Islamic doctrine. As per order of the Arab governor Yazid ibn Muhammad, so many Persians were beheaded in Orangano, a city Iran, approximately 400 kilometers of the northern east of Tehran. Old name was Astrabad. Order beheaded the so much blood of Parsis killed that their blood mixed water would energize the milestone to produce as much as one day meal to him as hatred hatred vowed. The extant blood was too much, and so ritual itself represented the blood camel for 3 days, and he fed this bread which was prepared after running watermill by people's blood for 3 days, and bread was the red color due to the blood of innocent Zoroastrians. And women were molested, looted the wealth, enslaved children, and killing the all male upper the age of puberty. As this act is recognized by Allah, Rasul, and Prophet Muhammad Sahib Tabrasta, it was still the Zoroastrians majority until majority traveled migrated towards India. It shows that Vedic culture is very pro-humanity and relevant and relaxation to human mind. Land since the millions years and the rest which were present in Calicut kingdom slowly convert to Islam. Umar II was the reported to say in one of the letters commanding not to destroy a synagogue or a church or a fire temple, but at that time not so much a worship place of Zoroastrians, because all were destroyed on the 8th. In the beginning, it seems only fabricated story by Muslim historians and communist historians for their vested interest, or take money from Arab countries and communist countries also. According to Fred Donner, a citizen of the USA, Zoroastrian in the northern part of Iran were hardly penetrated by the Muslims. The reason was not penetration of Muslims due to only strength. As in Myanmar did right action against Rohingya Muslims due to as they are cruel were killing the Hindu uh, uh, cruel were killing the Hindu both to Myanmar and China, only the countries they knew this that their leadership read Quran and they know that Quran is a Buddhism and death. warrant to non-Muslims. The teaching of Islam always praised the Islam, and Islam only preached and devotion to Muslims only, and killing warrant to Kafirs means it is totally dictatorship whenever Muslims are not in majority in countries, being the binary vision of the Quran. Its basic motive to Islamization of whole world. The teaching of Islam always spread Islam, and Islam is the violence synonymous whenever Muslims are not in majority. It's very common. The, there Muslims are creating Bunism disturbance, otherwise persecution of Kafir is very common. Quran is the only book it's spreading hate, and this is not religious book but a book of teaching of the slaughtering of the Kafir means every Muslim in future as per Quran teaching. If he is true Muslim, if he does not killing the Kafir, then he deviated from the also verse number 5 states kill the Kafir. Then in the period of the Abbasid, the Zoroastrian was devastated. The Abbasid period from 752 to 804. After the Umayyad dynasty, Abbasid were also cruel towards Zoroastrians. Abbasid were king, and due to the only Iranian Muslims, persecution of Zoroastrian was the extreme site. Sacred places of the Zoroastrian temple were ruined and destroyed. Rape of Zoroastrian women was very common by Muslims. They were Dhimmi as usual, and the people were registered as Dhimmi, as Jews, Sabian, and Christians. And they were liable to pay the jizya for their protectors. They were kafir or non-Muslims, rendering the restriction on Zoroastrians as the same right in employment and statute as Jews. Status as Jews were also in the clan of Sunnis. Christians were restricted to assist to bath on the ground that their bodies were polluted. Hardly any Christian family was able to deny to avoid the conversion to Islam. When employed in Abbasid kingdom, according Daulat Shah Abdullah ibn Tahir, governor of Khorasan for the Abbasid Caliph banned publication in Persian, and by his order all Parsis or Zoroastrians were compelled to their religious book thrown to fire. Rendering the script was Pahlavi script. Zoroastrians were in minority in the first time in Iran under the reign of Mustasim, who pledged an imam and muezzin for destroying the five temples and replacing with mosques. The Safavid dynasty. As per the nomenclature, the Zoroastrians were more several than any dynasty before this dynasty. Zoroastrians were in minority and were protected by their religious priests since there was no king in Iraq. You see, Iraq and Iran and the northern Afghanistan were the majority countries of the Zoroastrian or Parsi, as in India they known as Parsi and Tata themselves we all these are Parsi. The Samanid dynasty, 890 to 999, Samanid dynasty was of Zoroastrian theoretical nobility who voluntarily converted to Islam in Sunni sect in this era. Some five temples of Parsi were in existence. These five temples were, were in very province of Parsis including Khorasan, Kharman and Sistan and other areas under Samanids control according to Al-Sahar Rasmani. There were five temples situated in Baghdad also. Al-Saharistani was an influential Persian historian of religion, a historiographer, Islamic so-called scholar, philosopher and story maker, also known as Muhammad al-Saharistani al-Masudi, an Arab from Baghdad who wrote in 1956 a Hajri. Russians for the time being continue to exist in many parts of Iran, not only in countries which came relatively later under Muslim sway, Dabristan, but also in those regions which earlier had become provinces. According to Al-Masudi, five temples were to found the Majus. He state venerate many five temples in Iraq, Fars, Kerman, Sistan, Khorasan, Tabristan, Al-Dazibel, Azerbaijan, and Aran. He also added Sindh and the Sin of the Indian subcontinent, Al-Hind to this list. 10th to 20th century migration to India. The Zoroastrian migration to India due to the brutality or cruelness of the Islamic doctrine. The Zoroastrians were so persecuted as usually by Muslims and Islam did against every evil a barbaric behavior against Kafir. So Zoroastrians migrated to India reflects that how Islamic doctrine is harsh against Kafirs or non-Muslims and how Vedic religion and culture are the pro-human. So Zoroastrians started migration to India, Vedic land with full of humanity, the land of kindness. In the beginning, Zoroastrians were fled to northern Iran, then to island of Hormuz and Iranian island in the Persian Gulf. 8 kilometers offshore from Iran, and then finally to India. Generally, or mostly, this exodus was due to only Muslim tyranny against the Zoroastrians. Recently, some scholars, as Kissa-e Samaraj, written in 1599 by a Parsi priest, and Kissa-e Jerusalem in Hindustan, written more than 20 years later. This is complicated that there was already Jerusalem here in India in the Sasanian period. This story is only fabricated. Suppose there were Parsi were living, then what relation with persecution by Muslims? If suppose they were living in India, but they were protected by Sanatani Vedic Arya people of peaceful culture of India, so they were living peacefully in India. But migration was the ultimate reason for migration of Zoroastrians, as earlier in this book mentioned, in case of Jews in Middle Era. Because Iran was no safer to Zoroastrians, first group of Parsis settled in Sanjan, Gujarat. The named origin of this city, Middle East Sanjar, near Meerut, presently is in Turkmenistan. Many scholars are against this fact that when Parsi came to India, but dates are the history of past. But persecution cannot be forgotten at any cost, because their migration was only due to persecution by the Muslim, clear cut by intolerant Muslims due to Islam and the Quranic ideology only, means Islamic ideology. The Safavids 1500 to 747. Most difficult time to Zoroastrians or Parsis during Safavid period and faced repeated persecution, forced conversion. Safavid king forced to convert them in Shia Islam due to Iran is Asia majority Islam. Abbas first of the Safavids settled many Zoroastrians in a suburb of his new capital, the suburb of Isfahan in Iran, Isfahan, a city of Iran. The abode of the Parsi known as Gabar Mahal, Gabristan, or a Gabrabad, derived from the word Gabar. Actually, Gabar was an insulted nomenclature given by the Muslims as they think as they are superior than to Kafir. Actually, such type of people still are living the dogma, irony, and fool's paradise, fearing with Muslims and due poverty and weak against Muslims. Parsi had to hide the fire temples within their dense populated habitat or mohallat or ghettos, and conversion in a newly invented dialect known as Dari. Later, Safavid kings were not as tolerant as Sahab was. Muhammad Bagir Majlisi persuaded to Sultan Hussein 1688 to 722 decree the forcible conversion of the Zoroastrians, those were refused to kill. The accounts in the Minot era written during Safavid period demonstrated that the Zoroastrians were subject to harassment by the CIS majority. Their places of worship by temples were under a constant threat of being destroyed by 770 when Le Brun, Dutch tourist and artist, and he round the travel across the earth twice on large scale traveling, visited Isfahan, now in Iran, the Persia. Because originally they were the habitat of the Persia, now the Iran, no longer practiced their faith and were the main deprived community of the world after Jews. The most deprived lot of Zoroastrians were brought to Isfahan and had been forced to become Muslims in 1821. Khair lifetime 770 to 812. A Scottish visited Isfahan and noted that they were chiefly artists, authors, and diplomats. Any Zoroastrians were left in Isfahan, and the traveler Gababa was in a ruined condition. Tsar dynasty 750 to 1925. A Zoroastrian astrologer named Mullah Gustavus projected the fall of Jain dynasty to the zoarastrian Cameron dynasty. Because of Gustav's forecast, the Parsi of the Cameron were spared by the conquering army of Abna Muhammad Khan Czar, despite the aforementioned favorable incidents. The Parsi during the Khazar dynasty remained in agony and their population were rapidly to decline. Many foreign visitors to Iran of this time commented the pitiful situation. Traveler A. D. W. Jackson, Abraham Valentine William Jackson, LSD, PhD, LLD, this is the qualification, was born 9 February 1862 AD and died on 8 August 1937. Was an American specialist on the Indo-European language. He was the great scholar. He was the great scholar with the ability of the author who noted that Zoroastrians were living in the continuous persecution and fear of the death and molested their women. Parsis were denied to any job as a respectable job by Muslim extremists, though all Muslims are not extremists, but after reading the Quran and violence verses, it is very difficult to our Muslim brethren to bypass these verses of Quran which are creating fear in non-Muslim or Kafirs. One witnessed by A.B.M. Jackson in Yazd, according to Edward Browning, the walls of Zoroastrian houses had to be lower than that of Muslims and they could not repair their five temples and synagogues of the Jews in any Muslim country or Islamic country. Various methods were used by Muslims against Kafir who converted Islam and the last by force conversion, and who denied convert into Islam, ultimately death or killing from their kingdom. Various methods were used to polytheistic worship of many lords or not God as the people of Islamic faith are describing in the journal. God is only one to any cult religion who says that God are many in Vedic and other religion totally false, or they do not know about this fact and are innocent. Until every cult God is one. Parsi were forbidden from taking up the lucrative occupant. Parsis were as outcasts, social rejection as impure and untouchable by the Muslims. But if any member of Parsi family convert to Islam, he or she was entitled to all inheritance. Even his or her family still was Eurasians, and all property was given to new converted as Muslims. What a stupidity by Muslim at that time that food of Eurasian was impure, and many times if they of such food of the Muslim, including fruits and vegetables, that food was not pure to taken by any Muslim. It seems at that time that Islam was holy as Ganga in India. After conversion of Parsi family, they were turned immediately pure. What is the amazing fact? Zoroastrians were threatened with forced conversion, even were beaten by Muslims and had to compel fled away and religious temples, sanctuaries were regularly desecrated. Daily life harassment was very common and attack on roadside by the Muslims, murder or killing of the Zoroastrians not punishable. As in the Islamic country nowadays, Zoroastrians could not wear good dresses or new white clothes, use of fragrance oil or jasmine oil. Hmm. They were not allowed to wear an overcoat in winter also, but were compelled to wear long robes called choba and cotton weave on their feet in winter. By that time, rogue Muslims wearing the eyeglass hat, long trouser, cloth, boots, shorts, binding their turbans tightly, carrying watches on rings, were all forbidden to Parsi oblique Christians. During the rainy season, they were not allowed or appear in public because their bodies and clothes could pollute the Muslims. Zoroastrian men in Yazd would carry a large shawl and they would place under their feet when as a visitor go to a Muslim house. So as to prevent the carpet from being polluted, forbidden from riding horses and only allowed to ride mule kachar in Hindi or donkeys upon facing a Muslim, they had to dismount on until 1923. This ban was lifted and allowed these riding during good cold and taking umbrella in the rainy summer season. by the Raja Shah, who Raja Shah Pahlavi. Now the descendant of the Raja Salvi uh, abandoned or fled away to the United States of America after the revolution of the uh, Iran, the Shiite revolution. So you see, the Islam is a very, very against the not only Hinduism, but every human being. So this cult is not a cult; it is a political derivative, a Gunism on dictatorship of Muslims throughout the world, and we should know that we have to oppose this ideology, which is very very violent and very very unhuman in nature. So in this my book, I had written that how the Zoroastrian persecution was prevailing at the time of the Muslim in the Islamic country, and the all Parsis were fled away from the Iran, Iraq, and northern India, northern Afghanistan, and they came time to time to the India, first in the Sanjan of the Sinjar, name of the Sinjar, and now the a city in Sanjan, on the name of the Sinjar, the city of the Parisian was in Iran. So Sanjan is the synonymous of the Sinjar, and you see the Zoroastrians are the most persecuted people by the Muslims or the Islam. So how we can say that Islam is a good religion or good ideology? Certainly, this is the most desecrated ideology with filthiness against the non-Muslims and Kafir. And this is the real, real a violent ideology against the humanity and humanism. So my appeal to all the Muslims, please see how such type of desecration of the temples and the fire temples and the synagogues were desecrated by the Muslims. Even in India, they desecrated the all Hindu temples and they looted. So primarily, Islam is the guru of the dictators and the Gunism dictatorship and the looting the wealth of the Kafirs or non-Muslims. In the last, I would like to say the second part of my this book I will read in your next coming video. Thank you. See you. And